It is entering monsoon season, and I know by now, as soon as the wind starts, the rain starts, you have to get used to being asked 24/7 if you want to get a taxi or a tuk-tuk.
This is part 2 of my trip to India, Jaipur to Udaipur.
So after a very long journey from Delhi, I'm here in Jaipur in Rajasthan. So it's the first trip on this Rajasthan tour. So I was meant to be getting a flight from Delhi to Jaipur, but about 15 minutes before my taxi was leaving for the airport, my flight got cancelled. So it was a bit chaotic, a bit of a disaster. And I ended up having to get a taxi all the way here to Jaipur, which was around 5 hours. There was no trains on the day, there was no buses available. So it was either stay one more night in Delhi or get a taxi all the way here. And I'd had enough time in Delhi, I think, so I thought I'd just bite the bullet and take the taxi. So it's quite tiring, but I made it here. I'm looking forward to exploring Jaipur and Rajasthan. But yes, these grounds are now sort of unused palaces. They're all still in very good condition and they're used as places to worship. So you have to take your shoes off in certain areas of the grounds. I'm just enjoying walking around, exploring before I start to head up there and up there. So it's gonna be a lot of walking today, lots of places to explore, and I want to make the most of Jaipur whilst I'm here after missing a decent time because of the travel. So yep, lots of walking in the heat, which I love to do. I also had the disaster of my phone charger almost exploding last night in my first evening in Jaipur. I put the charger on the bed and there was so much static on the bed that it like sparked and then the whole thing just blew. So I had to quickly go out this morning and buy a brand new charger, which luckily there was plenty of mobile phone places nearby. But I was not too happy about the thought of trying to find my way around without a phone. But that's 21st century problems, isn't it? Live and learn. Take 2 chargers.
Jaipur is home to many different types of palaces, like the Hawa Mahal, otherwise known as the Water Palace, located in the middle of the Mansagar Lake. And located nearby is one of Jaipur's most famous palaces, the Amer Palace. It's surrounded by a serene lake which looks so good to swim in, but maybe not. After a steep walk up many steps, you reach the palace, a beautiful fort with great views of the Jaipur area. After seeing so many different amazing buildings over the years, I generally prefer to see the views and nature surrounding the areas, if I'm being honest.
So after just visiting the Amer Palace, I noticed the sky getting a bit grey and then the wind started to kick up. And I know by now, as soon as the wind starts, that's when the rain starts. So I'm just hoping I can get through most of the day without getting completely soaked. But I'm not fancying my chances. And at the moment, I'm in old Jaipur. So there's buildings which are 700 years old, 1,000 years old. And it's a lot different to the main city centre that I started in earlier on today. But again, I love coming to the old parts of cities because you get a flavour of the real city rather than just the touristy side.
Jaipur is known for producing two things: jewellery and clothes. In particular, they produce textiles and block printing as shown here. They do this alongside the hand-loom textiles to produce beautiful clothes.
So I managed to avoid the first bit of rain when I was inside that clothes warehouse, but now I've been caught quite badly in it. I'm on my way to a monkey temple. There's no better reason to be caught in the rain than going to a monkey temple, I think. But from what I've heard, this region's been crying out for rain for quite a while. Apparently Rajasthan's been dry for all of May and June, when normally it gets a little bit of rain. So I guess this is finally the moment where they're getting that much needed rain. So who am I to complain?
Before reaching the temple, I had an idea in my mind of what I expected to see. However, I wasn't expecting there to be 50 teenagers jumping in a swimming pool at the top of the temple, screaming and playing music. I also wasn't expecting leftover clothes and tons of rubbish surrounding the area. The temple is called Galta, but as there are many macaques who live there, it's known as the Monkey Temple of Jaipur.
So I'm heading back up from the monkey temple now, and it's difficult to know what to think about that really, because there's obviously a lot of rubbish and trash around. I'm not quite sure what they were eating. There's a lot of people screaming around, so it was a little bit sad. It wasn't quite what I was sort of thinking in my mind. If anyone's been to Lop Buri in Thailand, then that always felt a bit nicer. They're just left alone. There's plenty of them in the temple, but here, I don't know. It just felt a bit sad, really. And there's a guy who works for the area, and he was just throwing bits of food at the monkeys, like not passing it to them or rolling it. He was throwing it at them. So it's stuff like that where it just made me want to just turn around and think it's not really a great place, I think.
And at the top of the hill there are amazing views of Jaipur and more macaques, but this time they were surrounded by trees, no noise or rubbish. The next day, I was back on the move. I walked through the local markets where you can find vibrant clothes and textiles. In many parts of India, it's illegal to kill cows, which is why you see many of them roaming the busy streets. Jaipur is known as the Pink City because of their colourful buildings. This was done for the hospitality of Britain's Queen Victoria in 1876. With the Hawa Mahal perhaps being the most iconic element of that.
It's on a very busy road. It's quite unexpected, and quite a lot of local people taking their photographs with it. So even around here, it's still a very popular place. That's probably the symbol of Jaipur you see the most. Even though the Amer Palace might be the most famous when it comes to seeing pictures of Jaipur, even here now, they're always using that place, that iconic image. So I think now, after being to so many temples and palaces, I feel a bit templed out really. I was going to go into the city palace, but I think I've already done most of what I need to do now in terms of the site. So I just want to walk around Jaipur and get a feel of the city and just be around that a bit more than just the tourist sites. You have to get used to being asked 24/7 if you want to get a taxi or a tuk-tuk or tickets. And I think you probably need a decent amount of patience just to either wave it off or politely decline, because you get asked over 100 times a day easily. It's pretty non-stop, which again, it's understandable because it's their way of making money. And obviously when you're a foreigner, you're probably seen as easy meat most of the time. So yeah, just got to keep calm all times and just wave it away. But there is less scams, I would say, here compared to Delhi. So that's not something to worry about as much, because in Delhi it got quite full on with the attempted scams, and it was a bit disheartening at times because you just get a bit fed up of it. But here it's just about trying to get on with the constant asking of what can they do for you, which again, it's just their way to try and make some money. So what can you do?
Sometimes the constant grabbing for attention gets overwhelming and frustrating in India, as you can see, but always remain calm. Take some deep breaths and realise the beauty around you.
It's a new day, new city, but I'm still in Rajasthan, but I've made the trip from Jaipur to Udaipur. And you might be able to see behind me, but it's just started to rain very, very heavily. So, just like the rest of India, it is entering monsoon season, and I think it's currently started because it's absolutely thrown it down. It gives a bit of a break from the heat, so it just changes the atmosphere a little bit, but it's not ideal. I'm sort of hiding under the tree for a little bit. There was about 10 or 15 other people with me, but they've ran somewhere else because they're only getting heavier. Not ideal. But I've only had about 2 or 3 hours sleep, so this weather is actually probably better to wake me up than the heat. People saying hi. But yeah, when it's hot, it makes me feel even worse, so the rain's actually quite nice. Udaipur is known as the city of lakes, so it's going to be a nice change of pace from the sort of concrete cities I've been to with New Delhi and Jaipur. So I'm looking forward to getting down there, having a look. Just got to wait a bit first, so.
Instantly, I felt more relaxed in Udaipur. The tall green trees, less traffic and calming lakes made this a very different part of India on my journey so far. That's the beauty of this country. It has everything. Different states feel like different countries, and I was realising this as I went. Like Jaipur, the Udaipur streets were filled with cows, donkeys and goats, which seemed in keeping with this beautiful city.
So yesterday ended up a little bit of a washout. The rain did stop at times, but it became heavy throughout the day, but it relieves that humidity a little bit, because right now it's so thick, the air, so I wouldn't be surprised if it rains a bit later on. What you see just there with people washing their clothes and other things in the lakes, that's quite common around parts of India, and certainly here where you have many lakes dotted in and around the city. And it's quite hard for us to imagine, I think, back at home, but here it's normal. I'm not sure the lakes are the cleanest in the world, but it obviously serves a purpose and it works for them. It's quite interesting to see the culture differences. When I decided to come to Udaipur, it was for this reason. It's so much quieter. You've got the beautiful lake behind, and it's just a lot more of a relaxed environment. So this lake is actually man-made. I think all of the lakes in Udaipur are man-made, which is quite surprising when you see them.
After getting used to the macaques in India, I was happy to see some langur monkeys, who all played and gathered to wait for food, one of the effects of living around humans.
Over the last few days of being here, I've noticed at the top of one of the mountains just outside of the main city that there seems to be a temple or big steps going to the top. I was never quite sure of how to get there, but this morning I've made it my plan to find out, and I've just seen this nice little path which I'm hoping and guessing leads to the top. So it's a beautiful day, it's very hot, very sunny, so it might be quite hard work, but hopefully I can get to the top. So far so good, a little bit tired, so out of breath more than anything, but I'm about halfway up to the top I think, but the view's already really good. And over the last few days of being in Rajasthan, I've been thinking again about who my next drawing could be, and I've been a little bit stuck because I wasn't sure of which famous people are from round Rajasthan. I didn't want lots and lots of cricketers, but the more I thought about it, the more I came up with a new idea, something a little bit different to the rest of them.
Walking isn't the only way of getting to the top, as you can take this cable car if you don't fancy the walk in the heat. Either way, it's worth the trip with unbeatable views of Udaipur. Back to my next drawing. For those who don't know, the Rudyard Kipling story, The Jungle Book, was based here in India, in the neighbouring state of Madhya Pradesh. Within these stories, the Black Panther Bagheera began his story right here in Udaipur.
So they say he was kept captive by the Raja of Udaipur, which is basically the royalty, and the royal palace is still standing today, and the royal palace is one of the main tourist places in Udaipur now, and it's used for weddings and huge events, and it's a really amazing building right in the centre of Udaipur. So I'm going to head there now. It's just started raining, to try and imagine what Rudyard Kipling was thinking while he was writing that story, The Jungle Book, and how he started Bagheera's story. And then as I go through and think back to Jaipur and Udaipur, I'm going to try and think of how I can develop this drawing. It's in the very early stage at the moment, but I'm quite excited to start it. I've got lots of ideas going in my head, especially when you're in India and you see so many animals around. That's obviously why it's based in India, because you do get the elephants, you do get the tigers and the snakes and everything else. So yeah, I'm looking forward to starting it. Found some shelter right next to the top of the mountain, hill, whatever you want to call it. That's just in time as well, because it's getting very heavy, which is becoming a running theme of my time here. Which again, it's monsoon season, so this is what happens throughout these summer months. But I've still got a great view just to watch the rain. Now, in the story of The Jungle Book and the writings linked to it, they say once Bagheera broke out of the Udaipur royal palace and escaped the Raja of Udaipur, he went into the jungle, and then along with the rest of the characters, they made their way through Rajasthan and all the way to Mumbai. And it seems quite fitting really, because that's going to be my next place to go to after Udaipur. I will be going to Mumbai, leaving Rajasthan and continuing my trip across India. And at the moment I'm hoping to use some of the old illustrations of The Jungle Book along with the more modern day ones, maybe looking at some real life animals as well. Again, it's in the very early stages, and I'm looking forward to putting the vision I've got in my head at the moment into action. So I always love these early stages because it's completely up to me. I can let my creativity be at its maximum, so I'm very excited.
And when it rains, what happens? Insects appear. And when insects appear, predators appear. I headed to the fictional origin of Bagheera, the Udaipur city palace. I always think that these views are not what you would expect from India. These huge seasonal rains keeping the area green and lush. Maybe these elephant decorations gave Rudyard Kipling some inspiration to start his story. All of this has given me my inspiration to start my artwork of his Indian story, The Jungle Book. Of course, I had to use green for this piece of art. And a sneak peek of my trip to Rudyard Kipling's birthplace, Mumbai, shows the effect and appreciation this wonderful story has in 2024.
And at the moment, I'm hoping to use some of the old illustrations of the Jungle Book.
I have loved my time in Rajasthan, and I can't wait to come back in future to explore more parts of it. It has been very different to the other parts of India I have visited so far, but it's time for me to head to my next destination in India, the home of Bollywood, Mumbai. Check out some more of my videos, and do me a favour, like the videos, comment and subscribe to the channel.